Welcome, everybody, to our Planning Board meeting, Tuesday, August the 5th. It's 4:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Any declaration of conflicts today? Seeing none, I'd just like to, oh yes, go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, I'm in conflict on 70 Longworth Avenue.
Very well. I think that, is there a, do you state the purpose or is that?
Sure, I have a brother that lives right in the immediate area who has submitted
Okay,
some letters in here, so I discussed it with our
sure.
CAO before, and he was
Very well.
deemed that, yeah.
No problem. I appreciate you letting us know. Once we get started, we'll just get you to exit the premises. And I'd just like to note that resident member Jackie is online this evening. And I also want to acknowledge that Councillor Matart from Ward 2 is here, so it's always nice to see him in the audience this evening. So thank you for that, Councillor Matart. So we're moving on, the approval of the agenda. Okay. Moved by Paul, seconded by Dave. All those in favor? Thank you. Jackie?
In favor.
Okay, great. Adoption of the minutes from the Wednesday, July 16th meeting. Moved by Bobby, seconded by Sin. All those in favor? Wonderful. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we can move right on to our reports. And the first item on our agenda is 70 Longworth Avenue, PID 364364. And our Manager of Development Planning is here, David Gundrum, to present for us. As well, after his presentation, we also have the applicant is here, as well as we have members from the area, which we will open up the mic for any folks to come up to seek clarification. But we'll start first with a presentation from our manager. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor and Chair Yankoff. The following application is a major variance request at 70 Longworth Avenue, PID, I'm just having trouble with the slides there. Thanks, Jason. PID number 364364. This is a request for major variance to permit a minimum lot area of 74 square meters per apartment unit, whereas 140 square meters per unit is otherwise required, and also to permit a reduced flankage yard setback of 3.35 meters, whereas 6 meters is otherwise required in the R3 zone. I'll just note for the board and audience's information that the requested setback reduction would be with respect to Victory Avenue, which is along the northern frontage of the property shown here. Just context of the property and surrounding area. The existing lot contains a 3-story single detached dwelling, which has been converted in the past to contain apartment units. Currently, there are 5 units in the existing building. Surrounding properties are primarily residential, containing a mix of single detached dwellings and converted dwellings in the wider area. And the site is across the street, located across the street from Birchwood Intermediate Public School. Again, the major variance request is for increased density and reduced flankage yard setback with respect to Victory Avenue. This is a request which is intended to facilitate development of a 5-story, 38-unit apartment building on the site, which would have a mix of underground and surface level parking. Based on the current lot size of the property, a maximum of 20 apartment units could be built with respect to existing zoning requirements. And on the screen is a image of the site plan for the proposed new apartment building, showing some of the parking spots, surface level parking, and the street access points. Next slide is a 3D concept rendering of what the building would generally look like in terms of format, scale, and massing. With respect to legislative requirements under the Zoning and Development Bylaw, in accordance with Section 3.9, on June 23, 2025, notice of the Planning Board meeting was circulated to 69 property owners within 100 meters of the subject property to request written comments on the proposed major variance. In response to circulation, a total of 15 letters were received, 14 in opposition to the proposed variance and 1 in support. And I'll just note for Planning Board's information, there was an additional letter that was received today, which was sent over email to members of the board. So actually a total of 16 letters. However, 1 was received past the deadline for submission. General points of opposition that were cited in response to circulation included increased traffic onto the local road network, impact to the quiet and peaceful enjoyment of surrounding private property, concerns related to physical compatibility with existing development, and a loss of heritage value and historic character if the proposed development were to go ahead. Partially in response to the public circulation, city archival research has identified that the existing building and property were the historical residence of the province of Prince Edward Island's 7th premier, being Mr. Alexander Bannerman Warburton. He was served as premier for a period of 8 months in the years 1897 to 1898, and was known to have lived on the property at 70 Longworth Avenue from the year 1901 onwards. It's also noted that Premier Warburton's father-in-law, John Longworth, owned the property starting in the year 1880, based on city research to date. So given the discovery of potential for historical significance of the property as raised by the resident respondents, it would be in alignment with best practice that the city further expand on existing research to confirm whether the building itself may or may not possess heritage significance to the city of Charlottetown. It is therefore the opinion of planning staff at this point in time that while the proposed development may have positive effects on current local housing supply challenges, that a pause be given through a deferral of recommendation and decision on the proposed variance so that city staff may conduct further research on the potential historical significance of the property and associated structure. It is therefore recommended that this review be forwarded to the city's Heritage Board to weigh in on the matter before the variance be referred back to the Planning Board for recommendation on the merits of the request and additional information. Our recommendation is as follows. The Planning and Heritage Department encourages Planning Board to recommend to Council that the following major variance for the subject property identified as 70 Longworth Avenue, PID number 364364, to allow for a proposed 5-story 38-unit apartment building having both surface level and underground parking, be deferred to City Heritage Planning staff and the Heritage Board for further review concerning the heritage significance of the property based on associative value with respect to local historical figures, and the 2 points of relief from the zoning bylaw are noted on the slide before you. So that is a summary of the application, the request, and staff's recommendation at this point, and I'll turn it back over to the chair for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for that, David. So, folks, the recommendation, you just heard it from staff. I can open it up first to the floor, resident members, if they have any questions, or I could ask the applicant without putting them on the spot. Did you want to speak to the application before? And if you do, there's a microphone right here, and you're more than welcome to come up and speak to it, and then I'll open it up to the board and then to the residents. So come on up if you wish. The mic is right there. Yep. Welcome, this is Lucas Walsh, and looks like his business partner.
Thanks. Thanks, Planning Board and the Chair, for just letting us say a few words. I'm Shalyn Murray, so I'm the architect on the project working with Lucas from Red Dirt Properties. And I don't think I need to really represent the design, as David did a good job kind of outlining it in the package. But essentially, we are proposing a 5-story, 38-unit building with the 5th story setback about 26 feet from Longworth Avenue. And the design is currently showing a mix of 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units with half the parking underground and half surface parking. So we have requested both a lot size variance and a variance on Victory to make the building and the parking requirements work on site. And the idea of this from Lucas's team was to increase housing options in Charlottetown and add new rental units in a location that's walkable near transit and it's close to schools and services. So we do understand, seeing this package after the letters went out, that there's a great deal of concern from the neighbors and community, and appreciate this opportunity to just say a few words and keep an open dialogue with planning and with the neighbors. So after a lot of discussion with David, we fully support this going to the Heritage Board for further review, and we think it's a thoughtful and appropriate next step here. We do feel there's a way forward that can balance both the housing needs and the community character, and we're committed to working with the city to make that happen. So Lucas is here, and I'm here if there's any questions. This is a pretty preliminary design at this point, but if we can address any concerns, we're here to do so. Did you want to say anything else? Yeah.
Great, thank you for that, Shalyn. So I'll just open it up to the board first. Any questions for either the staff or for the applicant? Yes, Sin, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for staff here. So should the heritage value be determined by the Planning and Heritage Board, what is the next step? Is the property kind of protected under certain, bylaw of the city?
Through the chair, Member Sen, so the next step is to refer what's been discovered to date and also to allow opportunity for heritage staff to do a deeper dive, further research on potential heritage value for the property. I guess the question being posed is whether or not this property should be considered for possible designation and protection or not based on further research. Probably primarily based on associative value, but I'll leave that to heritage staff to do that research and come back. Currently, there's no protections under the heritage bylaw for this property or the structure, but through the circulation, it's been revealed there might be something there, and so it behooves us to look further at that. So, yeah.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for that. Paul, do you have your light on? Go ahead.
I just have a question, Madam Chair, about there's reference in the material as to Longworth Avenue not being a limited access road. I'm not sure I understand what that is.
That's a great question. So, David, what does a limited access road mean? Not limited access road, I should say.
I'll try to describe that as best I can through the chair, and I'm speaking here a little bit in place of Public Works, but a limited access road would be like a main arterial road or a higher volume collector road where Public Works would severely limit the number of new access permits they would allow within a given linear distance along that road. Basically, what Public Works is saying here is that Victory Avenue and Longworth as well are both not limited access, and that based on traffic volumes and being a minor collector road and a local street that Public Works, the bar isn't set quite as highly for those as it would be for, let's say, University Avenue or north stretches of North River Road, for instance, where it's a much more higher volume, higher traffic, more lanes going on. Mm-hmm. So basically what Public Works is saying, there's a lower bar for them to admit new access points along those roads versus other higher order roads like University Avenue, for instance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you for that, Paul. Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little confused when I look at this map here in front of me. It shows the 38 units and the parking. Is the property boundary the red broken line that runs around it? I'm trying to figure out if there's how much green space there might be here. And it looks, if that's the boundary, then there's not too much. Is that right, that red broken line?
Through the chair, Member Kenny, that's correct. That's the approximate property boundary that's shown on the site plan. That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Sin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a point here, I mean, really, we're not looking at, yes, there is a concept design, and, I'm guessing this has been adequately zoned, and should the development be allowed, this could very well be go ahead, except for the fact that you would need a demolition permit for the existing structure in that property. Am I correct?
Through the chair, Member Sen, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then first thing you need to know is whether there is a heritage value of the property or not. And should there be a heritage value of the property, then this possibly would not take place. This demolition, am I correct on that?
Through the chair, that's correct. And just a point of information, I want to clarify for the board's information as well as for anyone attending today. The city is not in receipt of a demolition permit application at this point, only the variance at this point. Yeah.
So pausing the variation is really a matter of finding the heritage value and nothing to do with the exact, the development concept. Am I correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you, David.
So just a point of clarification, David. Since there's been no application for a demolition permit, and really the application is about a variance, does the board have options to either accept staff's recommendation to move it on to heritage, say no to the variance application, or some combination of the both?
Through the chair, the planning board can elect to modify staff's recommendation or go with their own recommendation. This is what's being recommended, that the board recommend this to council, that the variance be put on pause essentially for now, pending for feedback from city heritage staff and heritage board. So, yep.
Great, thank you for that. Dave?
Yes, through the chair to Dave, I guess. I'm just curious, Dave, the variance calls for 20 units where, 38 units where the lot dictates 20. Is that uncommon, or is that a high variance? I guess that's my question.
Through the chair, David, it's a request. I'll just put it in these terms. The use is permitted, therefore, it's a requirement of maximum density that a variance request is being asked for here. So we could receive a permit tomorrow for a 20-unit apartment building as of right, and that would go straight to building permit. They're asking to almost double the upper limit on density here. I mean, it is, I don't want to offer an opinion on the variance at this point, given what our recommendation is, but, it's not something that might be uncommon as part of a variance request, but at the core of it, the use is permitted. Therefore, the variance application was the appropriate vehicle to use here because they're varying density requirement in part, so, yeah.
Just before Lee speaks, just for some clarification, if the applicant withdrew their, I'm just trying to understand this, if the applicant withdrew their application and just came in, as you mentioned, as an as-of-right application and applied for their 20 units and they adhered to all of the zoning and development bylaw and it's as of right, does this still have to be evaluated by Heritage?
Through the chair, I guess the nuance there is that there would, under that scenario, there's no letter that would go out to the residents at all. So the notification that everyone received doesn't exist in an as-of-right situation. If we did, as part of that, we would have to receive two applications, one for building permit and the parallel permit for demolition, and the demolition has to go first. Demolition would get posted to the city's weekly permit list. And if somebody, chances are our heritage staff, because this is in or near the 500 lot area, heritage staff would have a crack at review, and it's quite possible that the same findings would have been uncovered in the absence of public circulation. What we would do with that, I can't speculate, but it's very possible that heritage staff might ask for a pause on a demolition permit outside the need for a variance, but I'm just speculating there. It's not 100%, but it's quite possible, yeah.
Gotcha. I appreciate the clarification. Lee?
Madam Chair, I was just wondering, can we send this to Heritage without a demolition permit first?
Great question. Dave?
Through the chair, that essentially that our recommendation is recommending that, and if the board endorses that, that's what is being proposed, so long as council votes in favor of that next week, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for now for the board, knowing that we will circle back to you? Should we first open it up to the folks that are here, if there's anybody that wants to come up to the mic and ask for some clarification with either the applicant, the staff? Oh, Jackie, anything from you before we open it up to the folks that are here? And Councillor Matart, do you have any questions? I'm not putting you on the spot, but as a councillor for the area, do you have any clarification questions or? Okay, good enough. Okay, so I can open it up to the floor. If anyone wants to come up to the mic, and if you don't mind just stating your name, just for the recording purposes. And I just ask that, we be mindful of time and everyone can have the 5 minutes. And, and we'll keep it respectful and we'll go from there. So anyone want to come up first? Jackie was there when she's back. Okay. Yep, go ahead. Okay. Oh.
Can we put the picture up again of the property?
Sure, and just for public record, this is Dr. Grant Matheson, and he is from, he's one of the residents in the area.
Yep. Oh, I have a question about, on that last picture. My property is right here, right beside it. How much yardage flankage are they giving me between my property and that driveway and that shed and that parking lot? How much do they have to give me by law?
Gotcha. Dave, are you able to do those Jedi answers?
Yeah.
He's talking about the underground driveway.
Yeah, the underground driveway, the shed, and the park, my property is here.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Matheson, based on zoning, that would be considered the rear yard. The front lot line would be the shorter of the two lot lines, which is the one facing Longworth. So there's a minimum setback requirement from the building of 7.5 meters. That's just shy of 25 feet so 7.5 meter minimum from the wall of the building to that eastern lot line that abuts your property next door. Yep.
How close can they be to my property?
7.5 meters for the building is the absolute closest they could bring the outside building wall.
From my building?
From
Okay.
from the lot line, yeah.
Okay, from the lot line, 7.5 meters. Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Right, I guess I was going to be talking more about the variances, but since it's still going to Heritage Board, I'm going to leave that right now and defer till later time. But I just wanted to find out how close that was going to be, because that is definitely going to affect my property value, the property value of that property. Also, the property value of the people that are right here on Longworth Avenue, right beside them. And that's all green space, right there where that parking lot is. So that's just a comment for everyone to know. And several heritage trees are on that lot where that parking lot would be. They're greater than 100 centimeters at breast height around. and that's considered a heritage tree. But those are just a couple things just on the heritage point. Any of the variances I will talk about if it comes back later on.
And because we really don't know the outcome of today's meeting, that's staff's recommendation, so we're not really sure what the planning board will decide in terms of that. So if you have any other questions that you do want to talk about, you could,
Okay.
that this would be a time to bring those up.
Yes, I've several concerns, and the neighborhood has several concerns. First of all, the increased traffic from the underground parking lot is directly across from, it is right on Victory Avenue, and it is right where all the children from Birchwood go every day at noon and travel down that street and go to Wendy's every day at noon and then come back. So I'm concerned about the traffic in that area. Plus, since it is facing Victory Avenue when it's supposed to be facing Longworth Avenue, according to this document, that's your folks' document, okay? It's supposed to be facing Longworth Avenue, and it is facing Victory Avenue. Then all of the people who will be visiting that building can't park in the underground parking or those parking spots because they're taken up. So they're going to be parking on Victory Avenue, which is a very narrow street as it is, and I know that that has nothing to do with anything because they say it's enough. But if we have continuous parking of visitors on that street all the time coming and going with those children walking back and forth at noon every single day, I am concerned. And also, 3 young children just live right across the street from that underground parking entrance. Another child lives there. Our neighborhood is going through a transition. Young people are buying houses there and having families there. There's a young gentleman back here. He's just about to have a child. He has a house 3 doors down from me, okay? The people across the street from me have 3 kids under 5 years of age. You know, it is a family type of neighborhood. When I moved in there, we checked and saw what could be built around us when we moved in there. And a 38 unit building was not something that was able to be put there. And, you know, as a taxpayer and as a Charlottetown citizen, you know, I think bylaws are there to protect homeowners and citizens. And I know there's a housing crisis, but 20 units, you know, is reasonable. You know, that fits within the variance. And don't be encroaching on people's property. You know, that is another issue. You know, it is going to lower our values of our property. The other thing that I would like to mention is just the privacy that we will no longer have on Victory Avenue because of a 5-story, and I know you're allowed 5-story, but a 5-story building that does not fit the character of the neighborhood at all. It doesn't look like any of the other buildings on the east side of Longworth Avenue. That is a neighborhood that we're really trying to encourage families to come into. There's a school right there. You know, putting 1-unit and 2-unit apartment buildings in there, we don't even know what the rent is on those things yet. Like that. This is just all hearsay right now. So I can't understand. I can understand doing it under the rules, but I really can't understand breaking the rules to put something at a higher density that encroaches more on people's property and also demolishes the green space that is there right now. And, you know, Victory Avenue had most of our tree canopy demolished during the last hurricane. And the remaining trees that are standing are obviously tough. So we just as a neighborhood You know, it's hot enough back there now as it is, and to remove more foliage is an issue as well. Those are probably just my major issues on.
Thank you.
on-
Yeah. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. And if you don't mind just stating your name, just for the record, I appreciate
I
that.
think I remember my name.
Thank you.
Just barely, but. All right, I'm Jim McMillan. I live at 70 Longworth. And I would suggest that the plans for this actual building are not in accordance with city ordinance. City ordinance says the front section of an apartment building has to face a street. Their plan faces the neighborhood and not the street. Their parking, underground parking, leaving onto Victory Avenue, very bad idea. It just ruins the entire neighborhood. That's all I'm presenting to you. So make your decision.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, I have 5 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, just let us know your name for the record.
Sure. For the record, my name is Adam Lidstone. I'd like to thank council, the planning board, deputy mayor, staff for being here today. So I just want to talk on a couple of quick issues. First of all, to the question earlier about the 7.5 meter setback between the property and the property line, I assume that refers to the building, not the driveway or the accessory shed. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, Mr. Lidstone.
So it's correct in saying that there's no legal minimum setback between the driveway or that building? Is that correct?
Through the chair, there are buffering requirements in the zoning and development bylaw. However, like spatial buffering requirements for vegetation, however, they can be substituted in lieu of providing like a board fence, for instance, so.
Okay.
Yep.
So the small shed in question, there's no minimum for that specifically?
There are setbacks for accessory structures such as that, and if memory serves me correct, I believe it's 1.2 meters, 3.9 feet in the case of an accessory structure. Yeah.
Okay. My next comment I'd like to make is on the, okay, would you like me to quote the new official plan or the existing official plan?
So right now, the draft official plan is still pending ministerial sign-off, so we are still under the old official plan.
Okay, thank you. In reference to the major variance application, to quote the official plan as it stands today, the policy is to require that all new developments reinforce the existing urban structure and hierarchy by existing uses, scale, and building topologies, and they must be consistent with the location of the site and the urban character continuum. So I'd argue that at that scale, 38 units, it probably violates the current official plan. Now, if this is considered in light of the new official plan, which I know has some changes, I'd just like to state that when discussing if a development is contextually sensitive, it says that a development is contextually sensitive if setbacks and/or appropriate heights are employed to mitigate massing issues, which are very important in our city. And it has a similar front facade as the rest of the street, and this is important to me, is complementary to adjacent buildings. Now, I know that the new official plan hasn't formally been adopted, pending ministerial approval, but I'd like to point out that approval of this 5-story unit would contradict certain parts of both your existing official plan and your new official plan. Perhaps the 20 unit would not as much, but there are units on the other side of Longworth that are 3 stories, may be more appropriate. I feel that that may be an issue. I'd also like to point out in the application that was sent to us from a traffic perspective, there were some concerns about having the entrance to the parking lot not be perpendicular to Longworth Avenue. I don't know if you can bring that up there, but it's at a slight angle, and there was some concerns from traffic that you would be unable to make that turn safely. And I'd like to point out that with the size and scale, it may be difficult to shrink the property, and you're not able to eliminate parking spaces due to parking requirements, to achieve that perpendicular nature and to make it safe for entering Longworth Avenue. So I'd have a concern about that as well. And my final concern I'd like to note, and I did communicate this with David, according to the development bylaw, it states that a major variance, an applicant may apply for the major variance if the proposed building or development complies with the general intent and purpose of the City of Charlottetown official plan and meets the following circumstances. It does indeed meet a circumstance. As was mentioned, this is an existing use. Apartments are allowed on this property. But I would argue that the development does not comply with the general intent and purpose of the City of Charlottetown official plan. So I would argue that perhaps maybe even the major variance application should not have been allowed. But I'm not sure if there's an appeal process for that. And that's probably concludes my arguments.
Thank you very much. Yes, Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important that the planning board and council get as much public opinion as possible, but I'm wondering, with the deferral, is all of this discussion premature?
Well, the deferral is staff's recommendation, so therefore the deliberation isn't completed. So it's, that's a great question. Dave, do you have a comment on that? I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's staff's recommendation, but planning board, unless planning board wants to put a resolution on the floor now, and then we can speak to the resolution, because right now, nobody in the planning board has put a resolution on the floor to either accept staff's recommendation or put another recommendation forward, or a hybrid of the two. Yeah. Councilor McCabe?
And I'm just looking for clarification too. So we heard tonight that they're recommending, staff's recommending that we send this on to Heritage to do a little bit more looking. But if they came in to do an as-of-right apartment, you might or you might not have sent this on to Heritage, which I don't understand right off. Is either it needs to be assessed for Heritage or it doesn't. My second point to this is, if it comes back and it's not going to Heritage, would this need to go to public meeting with this big of a variance request?
No, variances don't go to public meeting.
So it
There's no
wouldn't.
public meeting.
Well, I'll put a proposal on the floor right now that 38 units aren't a good fit for this particular area. So I don't care if it's Heritage or not. I would have really hard time supporting 38 units here. So I'd be okay sending it on to Heritage and shutting down the variance request.
So if I hear you correctly, you're putting a resolution on the floor to not accept staff's recommendation, but instead propose to the planning board that you not accept the variance application, but also still have it evaluated with Heritage?
Well, if that's what's important, which it obviously is, because that's what's here in front of us tonight.
Okay.
So obviously, that's what they feel is important. But yeah,
Okay.
not to support staff's recommendation on the variance.
Okay, so does somebody want to second that? Okay, and that was seconded by Paul Conley. So now so just to hear it correctly, the resolution on the floor is to not accept staff's recommendation, but instead to not accept the proposal of the variance application in the increased density and reduced flankage yard setback, but still move it on to, for heritage review? Or,
If that's important, yes, because we
Okay.
do want to make sure we're protecting our heritage.
Just a point of
Okay.
order.
yes,
Madam Chair, I don't think that's the appropriate procedure here. Because if you do that, first of all, if you, the staff are recommending that this be deferred and be taken to the Heritage Board first for confirmation of whether the property has a heritage value or not. Now, if we do not accept staff recommendation, we say like we simply, not accept the variance right now, what happens is that it's basically recommending to the council that, you basically end this application. But then then on what basis are you sending this to the Heritage Board? Because you would either need a separate application for demolition to be sent to the Heritage Board. Because I don't think it's kind of a mismatch right now. If we do not accept staff recommendation, then there is no ground on which it should go to the Heritage Board. David, could you confirm that or clarify on that point?
Through the chair, Member Sen, the board's at its will to do what it sees fit. You can endorse our recommendation or come up with your own for sure. I'll just offer that if the board elects to recommend denial of the variance, there may still be value in recommending that it also be forwarded to the Heritage Board as well for further consideration on the heritage aspect, whether the property should be protected or not. But I would leave that for the board to make a determination on.
But what is the base?
Those are two related but separate points that might require separate motions perhaps, but I'll leave that to the chair and the board to rule on that.
But I think I hear what Sin's saying is we're not really looking at the actual variance application tonight. Instead, what we're really looking at is whether or not we defer this application to go and be assessed by Heritage. Is that what we're, to me, it's a little confusing because I'm still okay with my other resolution if that's the right way. But I think what you're saying is that technically we're supposed to just look at whether or not we support the recommendation to go to Heritage or not.
No, that's not correct. We were presented a complete application, and staff's recommendation was to defer any more deliberation and move it on to Heritage. But this board, it still has the ability to assess yes or no to the application itself, unless I'm wrong. I mean, we want to make sure that we're covering and doing proper due diligence. But if I was to hear the manager correctly, that this board does have the option to not accept staff's recommendation and put their own recommendation forward. And at the end of the day, both of those, that recommendation coupled with the recommendation that staff will go in a report to council for council's deliberation and final decision.
But wouldn't we normally look for the recommendation from staff on what their opinion was on the variance? Is it in there? Because I didn't see that clearly.
Nope, they chose in the application, they chose in the report, they chose not to go any further because their recommendation at this point, not to evaluate it any further, was to just bring their recommendation forward, which was a deferral. This is a very interesting.
Because normally we would look for staff's recommendation on whether or not to approve a variance or not to approve a variance. So it's really hard to not, I guess I have to take that piece off for now, and I would support, I don't know what you do in this case. What do you do?
Well, the issue is that the application came forward with a specific ask, and now we've kind of dovetailed into a heritage aspect of it. So I think that seeking some clarification from staff on this, but if you still want to put your resolution forward, and maybe you want to do what Sen has recommended, and your resolution would just be to not accept staff's recommendation, and in fact, and the recommendation is to not accept the variance application, and leave the heritage piece to let it fall through an as of right. I don't know, David? I mean, can you help us out here? This is a very interesting file, and, let's try and get it right while we're here.
Through the chair, there's a few options here. You can either accept staff's recommendation, which is basically pushing pause on any decision on the variance so that we can go to Heritage Board to do more research and get some direction from Heritage. Or alternatively, as Councillor McCabe has possibly suggested, is that you could deny the variance outright and leave it at that as a possibility. And should the owners come in with an alternative configuration that also requires a demolition permit, that very well may have to go to Heritage Board anyway. Again, there's a few possibilities here, but alternative to our recommendation is you could very well just recommend denial of the variance outright and leave it at that, but I'll leave that to the board to try and decide on.
So can we defer this application so that you, as planning staff, could have your recommendation whether or not the variance is appropriate?
Through the chair, we won't know anything more than we do now without any advice from the Heritage Board. So there's a reason why we elected to defer this, was so that we can get more information from our heritage experts from the Heritage Board, and so we can make a more fulsome recommendation on the variance itself.
Disappointing a little bit to have this before us when it's not complete, and so many people be here today and passionate about an application. So I'm going to, I don't support staff recommendation, I guess, to get the heritage piece, to get this moving.
So your original resolution was to.
Shut it
that
down.
That to shut it down?
And you say I can do that still? Okay, then I'll do that.
Okay. So we're leaving the resolution, but negating the heritage piece, and it's to just not accept staff's recommendation, and instead, you're moving that to not accept the application for the variance. And that is seconded by, I think, Paul, are you still willing to second that? So now that resolution is on the floor, and Sen, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Even if, and I fully agree with Councillor McCabe, and if we do shut it down, that's really a prerogative of the planning board to make that recommendation to the council. But the heritage question will come back to us again at some point, because the zone is R3, and they have as of right, of 20 units, and they can always, go to the, for the building permit. Now, at that point, I don't think at that point, but especially before they proceed with the project, they would require to demolish that building. And that question will come back to us again, where we would have to deal with whether we allow for the demolition to happen or not. So even if there is an as of right, that as of right is not a permanent right. That's not a absolute right. So I just want to clarify that. So even if we go this road, that the resolution to, to shut this project down, that resolution would still be working for me, because I frankly, on the variance perspective, I don't think this is an appropriate major variance that should be allowed.
And if there is a heritage component down the road, it won't come back to this board, it will go to Heritage Board. So this board won't see this again. If it's an as of right, this board won't see it again unless the application is returned with a different application.
Yes, thank you for the clarification, Madam Chair. I meant the Planning and Heritage Board. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Madam Chair, may I
Yes.
speak?
Yes,
quickly?
Jackie, I'm so sorry. You go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. No, it's been really good conversation, and I'm sorry that I am not able to join in person. In listening to everything that people have shared today, I think I kind of disagree, with Councillor McCabe's motion, and would maybe put a different motion on the floor at whatever point it's procedurally allowed, to just simply defer to the Heritage Committee, only because the applicant has already said that they're willing to work with the neighbors on something that is maybe a bit more of a reasonable fit for the community, whether that means less units or if it means design elements that maybe integrate within the neighborhood a little bit better. I live just a few doors down from this location, and while I agree with my neighbors on many points about how it looks at the moment, and it might not be a complete one-to-one fit for the neighborhood, I do at the same time believe it is a good location for infill and gentle density. And so I would be disappointed, I guess, to see the application shut down at this point without maybe more discussion and maybe a bit more information. So I think deferring to the Heritage Board is maybe provides a bit of time for everybody to regroup, maybe relook at some of the designs, talk a little bit more with the neighbors, and get more insight about the heritage aspects of this property.
Thanks, Jackie. So we still have Councillor McCabe's motion on the floor to not accept the application for the variance application, seconded by Paul Conley. Now, Councillor McCabe, to speak to the resolution.
And to clarify, we just did this on Kensington Road. They can come back with a different plan, right, within the year that would still be suitable to make it look different, even if this is shut down for this particular application, correct? To
That's
work with the
correct.
neighbors and
that-
to come up with the design that might be more suitable?
That's correct. I mean, David, you can answer it, but I know the answer to that. Yep, that is correct. That can happen. Yep, yep. Any other questions on the resolution? Okay, so question called. All those in favor of Councillor McCabe's resolution, which is to not accept staff's recommendation and to instead recommend to council that we do not accept this variance application? All those in favor? Jackie?
I am not in favor.
Okay. All right, so we had, can you put your hands up again? I just need to count. Who's in favor? You're in favor of Councillor McCabe's Councillor McCabe's,
Not accept the staff's recommendation.
right. Yeah, so can I just see the hands again? We've got Sen, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And those against, we have Jackie, Dave, and Lee. So that's 4-3. So that will move on to council with a recommendation to not accept staff's recommendation and instead to not accept the application for the variance. So thank you. That was a lot of discussion. I'm sure we have not seen the end of it yet. But thank you very much, and thanks, folks, for coming out this evening. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our next application, it's for rezoning. And Sonia is here, Planner 2, to present the report. It's an unaddressed parcel on Violet Circle and Evelyn Street, PID 778-308. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you and good afternoon, Madam Chair and respected members of the board.
Thank you. It's all good.
This is a request to rezone the subject properties identified as lots 16, 17, 28, and 29 to on Evelyn Street and Violet Circle, PID 778308, from low-density residential single R2S zone to medium-density residential R3 zone, and change the official plan land use designation from low density to medium density residential to allow for the development of 4 stacked townhouses on each of 4 separate lots. If the rezoning is approved, the developments would meet all the regulations for the R3 zone and require no further planning approvals. The subject properties are vacant lots that from part of a greenfield or now subdivision development that is currently still under construction and expansion at the present time on the basis of prior approvals. All properties within the existing plan of subdivision is in this area are currently zoned R2S, which allows for residential dwellings in the form of single detached, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings, but does not have any allowance for stacked townhouse dwellings as proposed. The subject properties are located in relatively close proximity to Norwood Road to the west that contains primarily single detached dwellings that have been established for some time. This is the concept plan. Oh, we got new renderings. So in accordance with Section 3.10.4 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on July 18, 2025, notice of the application was circulated to 8 surrounding property owners within 100 meters of the subject property to request written comments on the proposed rezoning application. No letters were received in response to circulation. In accordance with Section 3.10.3 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on July 29, 2025, a public meeting of council was held to consider the merits of the application and provide opportunity for response and feedback from members of the public and council. No members of the public spoke or provided feedback at the public meeting. Several questions of a technical nature were asked by members of council and answered by staff. The current zoning limits housing options to semi-detached and duplex dwellings in terms of maximum unit count on an individual lot. A transition to the R3 zone would offer the option to permit stacked townhouse dwellings on each of the 4 properties and thereby increase efficiency with respect to municipal services. The size of each of the 4 lots to which the proposed rezoning would apply is sufficient to permit the proposed 4-unit stacked townhouse buildings on each property, such that each build would meet all regulations of the R3 zone. The subject properties are located immediately abutting one another, and therefore the proposed rezonings would make for a consistency in build form within one specific area of the subdivision, representing a moderately higher density than is otherwise currently permitted through R2S zoning. Let's look at some of the attributes. Positive attributes would be the rezoning would facilitate compact urban form and greenfield development of medium-density housing to meet future needs. The proposed stacked townhouse development would help address housing options for a growing population within the city. The developments are proposed on consecutive abutting properties and therefore would concentrate unit types within the same area, thus lessening impact on other forms of housing. The proposed development has been found to meet all the technical requirements of other city departments. Neutral attributes would be that the proposed development would require both an application for building development permit in order to enable the development to occur. A shortcoming would be that the proposed stacked townhouse units have potential to increase traffic counts in the area. However, Public Works staff have offered no concern with respect to the traffic impacts and proposed access given available data, and have deemed the proposed driveway access as acceptable and able to meet technical requirements. The Planning and Heritage Department encourages Planning Board to recommend that City Council approve the following rezoning and official plan amendment request: that to amend Appendix G of zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from the low-density residential single R2S zone to medium-density residential R3 zone for the subject properties identified as 16, 17, 28, and 29 on Evelyn Street and Violet Circle, PID 778308, and amend Appendix A, the future land use map of the City of Charlottetown official plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential to facilitate the development of each of the 4 lots identified as lots 16, 17, 28, and 29 on Evelyn Street and Violet Circle, PID 778308, with a 4-unit building, stacked townhouse dwelling. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Sonia. Any questions from the board?
Just
Councilor
one
Beck.
question. Just on the way those stacked townhouses go on page 55, just so I understand it, there's you see that person going in with a white backpack, and they go into that door straight ahead. The other door is in that red part, is it? I'm on page 55, 55 of the package. Be the next rendering. Keep going.
It's page 13 of your actual application, but it's page 55 in our package, if that helps you,
Sorry.
Sonia.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, so the entrance to the upstairs is in that red middle part, right? Am I looking at that correctly?
Yes, that is
That's how
correct.
that's how the stacked townhouses work?
So So, through the chair, the definition of stacked townhouse is that they must have their separate entrances.
Yeah. And it's in that red part of the building, that middle part, right?
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation.
Okay. Anyone want to second that? Seconded by Dave. So the question's on the floor. Any questions to the resolution? If not, all those in favor of accepting staff's recommendation? Jackie?
In favor.
Okay, so we can move that on to council. Thank you very much for that. Next item on the agenda is Viceroy Avenue, and I believe, David, that's you to do the report. And we also have the applicant here, should anyone have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of Planning Board. The following application is a request to proceed to public consultation concerning proposed rezoning of the subject property identified as PID 349035, as shown on the image on your screen, which is on the south side of Viceroy Avenue. The rezoning proposes to migrate the subject property from the R1L zone to the R2 zone to facilitate future subdivision and development of semi-detached dwellings on the subject property. The existing lots are currently vacant, containing no buildings or structures. The properties bounding the site to the south are predominantly within the R2 zone, containing a mix of single and semi-detached dwellings. The surrounding neighborhood is otherwise single-detached in the R1 zone. The site is also located directly across the street from West Kent Elementary School, which is shown here. And the subject property is also approximately 300 meters west of North River Road. The proposed rezoning request is intended again to facilitate development of semi-detached dwellings on the site, specifically 6 semi-detached dwellings across 3 new lots through a future subdivision. Based on the current proposed lot sizes and configurations, all requirements of the R2 zone would be met, save and except for the required rear yard setbacks of 7.5 meters for the future semi-detached dwellings. And on the screen is a concept site plan of what the development is proposed to look like in the future. The next slide is a 3D rendering, a concept rendering of what the semi-detached dwellings would look, and this is looking south from the north side of Viceroy, likely on the grounds of West Kent Elementary School. In terms of legislative requirements, if the proposed zoning bylaw amendment rezoning is approved to proceed to public consultation, the Planning and Heritage Department will notify the public of the future public meeting date in accordance with Section 3.10.4 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw. As per Section 3.10.3 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, before rezoning any parcel of land, Council shall conduct a public meeting to receive the views and opinions of the public and the applicant. Council may, for reasons in the best interests of the city, reject a proposed rezoning without public notice and without referral to a public meeting, but if an application does go to a public meeting, then Council shall determine the disposition of the application, and the applicant may not be allowed to withdraw the application following the public meeting. To conclude, our recommendation, the Planning and Heritage Department encourages Planning Board to recommend to Council to approve the request to proceed to public consultation to consider a zoning bylaw amendment, rezoning, to rezone the subject property identified as Viceroy Avenue, PID number 349035, from the single detached residential R1L zone to the low-density residential R2 zone to facilitate the future subdivision of the subject property into 3 new lots, each containing a semi-detached dwelling for a total of 6 new dwelling units. So that is a summary of the application request and our recommendation. I'll turn it back to the chair for any discussion on the request. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Just from a history perspective, we saw this application a few years ago, And I believe staff, at that point, the applicant had asked for a variance at that time as well, and staff had recommended that. And then I think it ended up at IRAC, but they still were successful. And so now they're just back looking for a little bit more density. Is that correct? Maybe it doesn't even matter. I'm just trying to remember if these lots were, oh, you've got your hand up. Let them talk, and then you can come up and answer too, for sure. Go ahead, Dave.
Through the chair, it was a little bit before my time, but within recent memory, there was an application for variance, and it was for 2 single detached dwellings. A couple of points of relief on variance, but it was not for rezoning. It did go to IRAC, and I'm kind of fuzzy on what the outcome of that was. Memory escapes me, but I know the applicant is here and can maybe speak to that in more detail. Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members. This is actually a new property owner. Yeah. So this is now, it was originally, yes, and it was quite contentious and there was some opposition. Again, that was a few years ago, though. We are in different times. Morris Holdings have purchased the property, and yes, they are looking to rezone and add 3 duplexes to the site, which they're quite motivated on. The developers do live on the street in behind. They also are, if you can see on in back, there's probably 3 or 4 duplexes in the area now, and I believe they're a current owner of 2, if not 3 of those duplexes, which they're now putting significant investment in renovating those duplexes. So they're very cognizant of the area. They'd like to see it grow. Again, with the school there, other duplexes, I don't see this as being out of character for the neighborhood. So we'd like to see this move on and have our say with the public and see 6 new homes put into a very desirable neighborhood that has significant tax base for the city.
Thank you for that clarification. And you're very correct. Today, the only decision that the board has to make is whether or not to accept staff's recommendation to move it on to council, to move it on to the next process, which is the public consultation. Does anybody want to put that resolution on the floor? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Paul Conley. So any questions on the resolution? Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the end result of that, because that rezoning came in just before I get onto council. So it was appealed. I think the decision came back that it was originally whatever the previous council decided, it get overturned by IRAC, and that ended up in 2 R1 lots. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it wasn't for rezoning, it was just for variances, and it did come back.
That was proposed was approved in the end.
Yes, by
Which
IRAC.
was two
Two single-family homes, yes.
2 single-family homes is what IRAC approved. Am I correct?
That's correct. So staff recommended it, planning board took it to council, council voted against staff and planning board's recommendation. It went on to IRAC, where the applicant was successful in having the variance, and then they since sold the property to Morris Holdings. So this is a new group, is that correct? Yes. Yep.
Okay, so it came back the IRAC says 2 R1 lots is allowable there. Now we're looking to convert the R1L lots to R2. 3 of them, going from 2 to 3.
IRAC approved the original applicant's.
Right, exactly. So right now, if nothing changed, you could go in and build two single-family dwellings on that property.
No, was that not just a specific applicant's variance, or if anyone was to come in now and build 2, that variance doesn't travel with the new property owner, doesn't it? Doesn't that have to be a new application?
Through the chair, planning approvals don't follow the owner, they run with the property. However, because of our regulations in Charlottetown, there is an expiry date on variances. I can't speak to whether those variances are expired or not, I don't know. But they do run with the property, not with the owner, yep.
Okay, so we're not sure if those have expired or not, but I guess it's a completely different application and a completely different owner and a completely, I guess, different scenario. And I guess today we're just here to see whether or not we want to continue on with the process, which is to let the public, as the applicant said, have a say. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of moving this on to council for public consultation? Jackie?
In favor.
Great, okay, so that's unanimous. That moves on to council, and thank you very much for coming in. Okay, thank you, folks, for that. Moving on to the next item, number 4 on the agenda. Number 4 on the agenda is 161, 167 Mount Edward Road. And back over to you again, David Gundrum, our Manager of Development Planning.
Okay, thank you, Chair Yankoff. I'm just waiting for the slides to load there. So the following is a request concerning properties identified as 161, 167 Mount Edward Road under 3 PID numbers 390237, 566976, and 390260. This is a request to consolidate 3 lots which are in the Comprehensive Development Area CDA zone to facilitate future development of the combined site with up to 150 apartment units spread across multiple phases of development. Just some further context to the site. The subject properties are all interior lots on the west side of Mount Edward Road, which are located south of the intersection with Pine Drive. The parcel identified as PID 390260 contains an existing single detached dwelling, while the remaining parcels are vacant and undeveloped. The combined size of the subject property is approximately 1.25 hectares, just over 3 acres, with a combined public road frontage of 84 meters, 275 feet on the west side of Mount Edward Road. The applicants, again, as mentioned, are seeking to consolidate the properties into a single parcel within the CDA zone for the combined site to be developed with up to 150 apartment dwellings across 2 future buildings as shown on the concept site plan. It's noted, as Planning Board may recall recently, that the subject properties went through a rezoning and land use redesignation process to facilitate the proposed development. So the lot consolidation before you tonight is an implementation of those rezoning and land use designation changes. Next slide shows some concept renderings of what the apartment buildings are proposed to resemble. Again, these were shared during the previous rezoning request. Some analysis, again, the property until recently had split zoning, which was changed to uniform zoning under the CDA zone as a first step in enabling the envisioned development to occur. Subsequent to the recent rezoning, the existing lots are needed to be consolidated in order for the development to proceed. Otherwise, general preconditions for minimum lot area, minimum lot frontage, as well as building setbacks would not otherwise be in place to allow the development to occur on account of the existing interior lot lines that currently exist across the combined site. While the zoning and development bylaw permits staff to approve lot consolidations in the R1 and R2 zones as per section 48.3.4A, any lot consolidations that are requested in zones other than these shall be subject to council approval. Since the subject properties are zoned CDA, this application is required to proceed through Planning Board as well as Council. The applicants have requested a lot consolidation in order to allow the future development of the apartment buildings to occur. To conclude, our recommendation is the opinion of planning staff that the proposed lot consolidation would facilitate and implement the intentions of the recent rezoning and land use designation that were approved by council to enable the intended apartment development to occur. The Planning and Heritage Department therefore encourages the Planning Board to recommend that the consolidation of the lands identified as 161, 167 Mount Edward Road, PID number 390237, 566976, and 39260 be approved subject to a final PIN survey plan. So that is summary of the request, recommendation, and I'll turn it back to the chair for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Dave. Any questions? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, moved by Councillor Beck and seconded by Bob. Any questions on the resolution to move it on to council, accepting staff's recommendation? All those in favor? Jackie?
In favor. Thank you.
Great. All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to our final application on the agenda, and that is 231 Richmond Street, and it's for a reconsideration on a demolition permit. Okay, over to you, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Chair Yankoff, and, okay, we're good. So again, the following is a request for reconsideration regarding property identified as 231 Richmond Street, PID 340703. This is a request to reconsider the issuance of a demolition permit, permit 005 DEM25, which concerns removal of a residential building on the subject property. It's noted that the demolition permit was issued on May the 30th, 2025, and subsequently the request for reconsideration was filed on June 19th, 2025. The subject property, addressed as 231 Richmond Street, is a corner lot located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Richmond and Hensley Street. Subject property was up until very recently occupied by a 2.5-story residential building, which has since been demolished and removed. The site photo was taken by planning staff on July 30th, 2025. Subject property is within the downtown neighborhood zone. Surrounding properties contain single-detached duplex and converted dwellings in the wider area. The site is currently under active development via permit 084 BLD 23, which authorized construction of a proposed 3-unit affordable housing building. The owner and developer of the site is the province of Prince Edward Island, PEI Housing Corporation. There's a bit of history on this file and this site, so just to give as brief a synopsis as I can. The following is a development history which has led us to today. In March 2023, the original demolition permit was issued by city staff. Subsequently, in April of 2023, this demolition permit was appealed to IRAC. In June of 2023, Heritage Board denied a temporary heritage designation for the subject property. In August of 2023, request for reconsideration to council of the original demolition permit was denied. In September of 2024, the following year, IRAC dismissed an appeal that was filed to them on the basis of jurisdiction. December 23rd, 2024, request for review of that decision by IRAC was subsequently also denied. And again, as noted on May 30th of this year, the City of Charlottetown issued a new demolition permit, demolition permit 005 DEM 25. And then in June of this year, June 19th, a request for reconsideration of that second demolition permit was filed. The reconsideration process, in order for an application to be reconsidered, there are 2 stages to the request. When applicants request a reconsideration, the application for reconsideration is required to pass at least one of 3 threshold tests. To pass the threshold test, the applicant must provide sufficient details in the request to show that the request falls within the stated grounds as detailed under section 3.15 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw. The 3 tests are as follows. Either A, new material facts or evidence not available at the time of the initial order or decision have come to light, or B, a material change of circumstances has occurred since the initial order or decision, or C, there is a clear doubt as to the correctness of the order or decision in the first instance. If after receiving a recommendation from the board, council determines that the request passes any one of the 3 threshold tests, reconsideration will be given based on the merits of the application. The application is currently at that threshold test stage. Staff have received the initial application and grounds put forth by the applicant for reconsideration. And the requesting party is asking for reconsideration and provided grounds on the basis of all three tests, which is contained in our report. In terms of staff review, on the basis of the applicant's submission, the permit was found by planning staff to conform to all requirements in order to issue and was identical in form, nature, and intent as per the previously issued demolition permit 001 DEM 23. On this basis, it was concluded that the new permit was deemed to be as of right under the provisions of the zoning bylaw and could be issued without any need for an application under the Planning Act that would require public consultation or a public process, including further consultation with the Heritage Board. In reviewing the applicant's correspondence with respect to the first test, reference is made to the presence of a 500 lot area heritage preservation area or heritage district that dates back to the pre-amalgamation 1979 zoning bylaw that would have some bearing on protection or heritage status for the subject property at the time the 1979 bylaw was still in force and effect. It should be made clear that when the 1979 zoning bylaw was rescinded and replaced with the first and subsequent zoning bylaws for the modern amalgamated city of Charlottetown in the late 1990s and early 2000s, that this heritage district, as it is referred to, ceased to legally exist. Therefore, this point cannot be considered as a new material fact or evidence that would have had bearing on the city's decision to issue the new demolition permit. The subject property is not designated under the city's heritage preservation bylaw and is therefore not considered to be a heritage resource. With regard to the second threshold test, since the issuance of the new demolition permit on May 30th, no material change of circumstances has occurred since that initial order or decision that would have affected the issuance of the permit. It is noted by planning staff that since the issuance of the demolition permit, the associated building has been removed based on a staff visit to the site on July 30th, 2025. With respect to the last and final threshold test, staff findings do not support the claim that there is a clear doubt as to the correctness of the order or decision in the first instance. There is no new information that has come forward since IRAC ruled on the original demolition permit and the challenge to IRAC's appeal decision, which was struck down in late 2024. On the basis of the applicant's submission, the applicant is claiming that the property at 231 Richmond Street has inherent heritage value and significance that should be considered via, at minimum, a temporary heritage designation under the Heritage Preservation Bylaw. It is noted that the subject property is not designated and it is not located within a heritage preservation area. The subject property was sent to the Heritage Board to determine if the subject property should be protected as a heritage site, and as per the board's recommendation to council from June 14th of 2023, the board recommended that the subject property not be temporarily designated as a heritage resource at that time. Just noting further that following the decision of Heritage Board in 2023, the applicant to the current reconsideration request also filed a same request for reconsideration under the Zoning and Development Bylaw in 2023. This request was forwarded to both Planning Board and Council at the time, whereby both bodies recommended unanimously or near unanimously against the request dealing with the same matter as per today. On the combined basis among the past findings and direction of the City Heritage Board, City Planning Board, City Council, and the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, there is no doubt as to the correctness of the decision to issue the second demolition permit, as it was found to meet all related requirements. Staff further are of the opinion that had the city denied issuing the new demolition permit, it is very possible the city would have been held legally liable for denying a property owner their legal development rights under zoning, as the permit was found to be as of right and in conformity with all requirements under the applicable zoning. Additionally to this, IRAC previously ruled that the matter was not within their jurisdiction to rule on. Further to that, the city's Heritage Board reviewed the property and ruled that it should not be protected under the Heritage Preservation Bylaw, nor afforded a temporary protection either. So to conclude with our recommendation, Planning and Heritage Department encourages Planning Board not to recommend to Council to allow for the request to reconsider a decision of the city to issue a demolition permit, permit number 005 DEM 25 as it pertains to 231 Richmond Street, PID 340703, concerning the removal of a residential building on the subject property. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you for your report. I gotta say, I'm just perplexed that this has already been turned down by IRAC, but it's back for a reconsideration
On a building that's already been
on a building
demolished.
that's gone. I mean, what in the name of time?
I'll move that we accept staff's
Can I,
recommendation.
and I'll second it, but I
Yeah.
would like to know if, because it's on the floor, if I have a question.
Sure.
David, how much time would this have taken staff to prepare this report, to bring this in front of us? And how do we shut this down from happening moving forward as we
yeah.
enter into the zoning and development? It's been to IRAC. That is the trumping tower. Like, this is, and I'm sorry, but it is a waste of your time as staff, but also our time to have to hear something that
Yeah.
we can't even reconsider.
And just to clarify, Dave, that's with all due respect to the amazing work
100%.
that you and your staff
I'm sure
does.
there's other
Like,
things that they could be
yes.
spending their time
Yeah.
on in their report writing. That's what my point is. I would like to know how long you spend on this report.
Through the chair, discounting our time tonight, I would say the better part of a day pulling all this together, and mainly because of the history on the file.
Well, we'll
I would
have
say
to
the
do
better
better
part
as
of
a
it,
council.
A working day, yeah.
So the resolution's on the floor to accept staff's recommendation to deny a reconsideration on a building that doesn't even exist anymore. Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't really pertain to, it does, but it doesn't. Keep hearing this 1979 Heritage District has come up on various occasions. City was amalgamated in late 97, 95, whatever it was. So when was the 500 lot heritage area created? Does anybody know? Can anyone
Yeah,
tell me?
I mean, what was it, 2012, or, I mean, it was
I
very.
had 2013 in my head. but
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
thought it was
sure on that.
2012 or 2013, but, I mean, it's in and about that time.
Okay, so basically that 1979 Heritage District, wherever that was, it got absorbed, I guess. Once the city amalgamated, it got absorbed into that. So that 1979, because we've heard this a lot, and it really has no bearing on, because everything has been absorbed in over time and merged into the current heritage preservation area that we have, which is the 500 lot area. So the reference to the 1979 Heritage District ceasing to exist, because there's been parallels drawn before that, well, we no longer have a heritage preservation area, but we do. And it is, and we just decided this afternoon that we're going to be reviewing and possibly expanding upon that. So am I correct on that?
You are 100% correct.
Okay.
And the city continues to be mindful and respectful of heritage, 500 lot, heritage preservation, which is why we're embarking on the heritage preservation bylaw, as we talked about in our meeting earlier today.
thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and if there's no more questions, question called.
Yep.
All those in favor of staff's recommendation? Jackie?
In favor, thank you.
Great, so we'll move this on to council, accepting staff's recommendation to not reconsider this application. Okay, any new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Wonderful, have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Thanks all.